This episode of the Rock and a Hard Place podcast brought to you by Tweaked Audio at tweakedaudio.com. Log into tweakedaudio.com and use the code HARDPLACE and get 33% off your pair of headphones. That's tweakedaudio.com.
This is the Rock and a Hard Place podcast.
I'd sit this one out, Cap.
I don't see how I can.
These guys come from legend. They're basically gods.
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
Let's not stand on ceremony here.
And now, here are your hosts, Chris Cooner and Paul Gibson.
Hello and welcome to the Rock and a Hard Place podcast. My name is Walter Cronkite. No, I'm Chris Cooner, a DJ with Broken FM. You can check us out online at broken.fm if Christian rock is your thing. We are one of many stations out there, but, we honestly feel like we do it better than anybody else. However, we're quite humble in that assertion, just so you know.
That's right.
Joining me today, that voice you hear on the other microphone, is my good friend. And honestly, one of these days, we are going to get together and we are going to work on a morning show. And try and actually make a little money in this business. But his name happens to be Paul Gibson. Hello, Paul.
Hello, buddy. How you doing? We're together at last.
I know. It's been 2 weeks since we've done an episode together. Feels like longer. Three. Oh, we didn't do an episode. Then I did an episode with Ian and Tom. And then we didn't do an episode because I was out of town last week.
That's right.
Nice. So go ahead and do your intro.
Oh, hi, I'm Paul Gibson, and I host the Christian Rock 20 Countdown, and every now and again the Christian Music Archive Show. And then, of course, this dinky little podcast called The Rock and a Hard Place. Oh, wait, that's what I'm on. Never mind. This awesome podcast called The Rock and a Hard Place podcast. Yeah, that's me.
We are so professional. We are professional grade.
That's all right. You just Google professional and go to images, and it's just pictures of Chris and I.
That's exactly right. That's absolutely right. Well, we are stoked to be back together. We've got some stuff to talk about. For today, being back in the news with some craziness going on and some questions without any real answers in that regard. But we'll kind of get to that a little bit later on. We do have some news to go over, though. Go figure. My Heart to Fear loses a member. According to Indie Vision Music, it says, My Heart to Fear has posted an update announcing that their rhythm guitarist Jay Graham has left the band. The now four-piece are hard at work prepping for the release of their new album soon. Apparently from them, it says, all right, everyone, here to update you on the MHTF camp. Our rhythm guitarist and brother Jay Graham has parted ways with the band and moved to Missouri. Why? Missouri. And we pray the absolute best for him and his lovely wife. For now, we're four pieces until further notice, but are working on a soon coming full length and intended to tour as much as possible until these bodies are in the grave. There is zero intent to slow down what we're doing as a band, and we can't wait to tour out very soon to melt all your faces at bars, VFWs, house shows, backyards, parks, and Steak and Shake with all the new tunes. What the heck is a Steak and Shake?
You don't know about Steak and Shake?
I do not. Enlighten me. I didn't know about Pyology till we got one in our town.
Right. Oh, man. And I've just found out one that I may even think is better. So if you guys get a mod pizza, they do salads as well the same way, where it's like you build your own salad. They make it for you. And you can even get a salad on like a pizza crust. And oh, man. And
I'm sorry. That is just wrong. Salad on pizza. If I want a salad on a pizza, I will not get that because that just does not sound. I will never want that.
I don't know. It's just an option, but they also have like some handcrafted like seasonal drinks. Like right now they have a Marionberry lemonade.
Okay.
And like a regular lemonade. And
Wasn't he like the mayor of New York?
No, Marion.
Right.
Like, you never heard of Marionberries?
What? That was the name of the mayor of New York.
I don't know. I think these came first.
Okay.
But they're kind of like a more tart version of like a blackberry or something, almost like maybe like a huckleberry.
Gotcha.
But anyway, good
All
stuff.
right.
So mod pizza, good stuff. We got one. over by our Chipotle in the next town over. So we're pretty excited about that.
Awesome. Okay, so My Heart to Fear. I
Yes.
don't know these guys, so why don't you
Right.
fill us in on some of the deets?
Oh, okay. They're one of the metal bands that's on Solid State Records. So, I mean, they're kind of one of the up-and-comers, not really one of the big ones right now, but they're coming along. I think they're going to do pretty well. And, yeah, so good stuff. And by the way, Steak and Shake is like a burger place that also does shakes, but their burgers, I think, are made of like really good meat. So it's like ground up steak or something. I don't know. But they have them in Texas and other places in the South. But they're kind of expensive, but pretty good.
Gotcha. Well, alrighty then. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. KB goes beyond the music with Before Tomorrow, which is a mini documentary. Reach record artist KB offers a behind-the-scenes look of the heart behind his new project, Tomorrow We Live. You can watch it if you go to indievisionmusic.com. You can watch Before Tomorrow below the post. The album is still streaming on iTunes First Play before you can pick it up when it releases next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
and this is just part one. Apparently, there's going to be at least one more part of this thing, and I haven't got a chance to watch it yet. But I don't know. I find this kind of new habit pretty fascinating, for no other reason than this used to be stuff that was relegated to like deluxe editions of albums that would come with like a DVD that would just have like an autoplay on it that would just be like this behind the scenes footage that most people wouldn't watch. But I think now that it's digital and it's free, I think it gets more mileage. So
gotcha.
All about that.
Good deal. Good deal. Let's see. So we lost someone.
Yeah.
And I'm reading through this, and I've never heard of this guy, but apparently he was a major influence within the Christian music scene. His name is Billy Ray Hearn, and it says here that he was an early major figure in Christian music, passed away at the age of 85. He got started in the business with Word Records before launching his own Myrrh Records. Oh, okay. In 72, the label worked with pioneering artists such as Barry McGuire, Second Chapter of Acts, and Petra, thus launching the Jesus music movement that combined timeless theology with the passion of a new generation of artists. They also went on to release albums from The Choir, Dakota Motor Company, One Bad Pigs, Randy Stonehill, Phil Keaggy, Steve Taylor, The 77s, and many, many more. He started a second... go ahead.
Oh, no. I didn't realize I wasn't scrolled down far enough to realize there was more of it. So go ahead. I think you'll probably cover it anyway.
Gotcha. He started a second label in 1976 called Sparrow Records, which saw the rise of artists like Keith Green, BB and CC Winan, Stephen Curtis Chapman, and more. He sold Sparrow to EMI in 92, which prompted a seismic shift in the Christian music industry as other labels followed suit. In order to compete with the resources available to Sparrow, other companies soon joined forces with major mainstream labels looking to stake their claim in the growing Christian gospel music market. Though he retired, the label continued to grow and eventually has become Capitol Christian Music Group.
Yeah. So he was actually one of the guys that my wife interviewed for her Steve Taylor documentary.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Apparently, this is a fun little side note story, but you can actually see all of his little interview segments on tobeaclone.com, which is like the interactive version of my wife's documentary about Steve Taylor. But anyway, apparently when he first saw Steve, they knew he was there and they knew he was looking to potentially sign some people. So I don't remember if it was Steve or like Steve's early manager or what, but they basically got a whole bunch of kids from Steve's home church who were there to where when Steve came on stage, mind you, this was like maybe like the third or fourth actual concert Steve had ever done. So he was really at that point a nobody. I mean,
Still
nobody
green,
had ever
yeah.
heard of him. Yeah, no one had ever heard of him.
Yeah.
So they got him to go on stage and they had it set up to where all the kids that were friends of his rushed the stage. Like they were like, we want you to scream like the Beatles just hit the stage. Like you're going nuts. Like this is the best thing ever. And he's already so huge. And so they did that. And he was like, wow, they seem to really like this guy. So he signed him on the spot.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Talk about manipulating the system. I mean, it's funny. I can totally see Steve doing something like that, which just makes it all the better, in my opinion.
So anyway, but yeah, I thought that was a great story.
Good
They were like,
deal.
we don't even know if he ever figured that out because this came out not in his interview, but he was just like, man, because like you hear other people talking about how that had happened. Then he was like, man, and when Steve hit the stage, it was just like, I mean, it was huge. Like people were just going nuts. I mean, women were screaming, guys were yelling, and it was just awesome. And I was like, man, I got to sign this guy.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. I love it. Let's see. Continuing on, Everyday Sunday members form a brand new band, and it looks like, are they calling themselves Bleachers?
No.
Is that the name of the
Populous.
album?
No, neither. Bleachers is actually the name of a mainstream band that they did a remix of. So it's kind of confusing.
Okay. While Everyday Sunday is notorious for having a revolving roster of faces, it looks like frontman Trey Pearson is forming an additional band along with Chris Schultz and Carter Froge. Froge.
I don't know.
This new
Do you
project.
have Froge protection? What? Froge protection.
Pardon me while I try not to sneeze. This new project, Populous. I should just let you finish reading this article, Paul. This is not going well for me.
This episode of the Rock and the Hard Place podcast is brought to you by Hooked on Phonics. You can learn to read today. Hooked on Phonics.
Wow.
Yeah, Populous. Anyway, they've already started with a remix of the track by Bleachers called I Want to Get Better, and they're looking to release more material over the summer. Now, there's no current... At the time this was written, there wasn't any confirmation about what Everyday Sunday was looking to do, but in a Twitter conversation that took place afterwards, the guy who wrote this initial little blurb about it asked him, he said, hey, is Everyday Sunday discontinued, on hiatus? Is it a side project? None of the above. What's the deal? And, what's going on with the side project? Well, Trey responded and said, hey, Everyday Sunday's still going. It may take a hiatus at some point later this year with our energy focus on the new band, but we hope that you follow. So anyway, it looks like Everyday Sunday is at least, as for now, going to still keep going in some fashion, but it may take kind of a break, which honestly, I don't think anyone's going to notice because Everyday Sunday hasn't really done a lot lately.
Yeah, they really have not done a bunch of stuff. So it's, they're kind of, I guess they're not necessarily forgotten, but they're not at the forefront of most people's minds at this particular moment.
No, and the last album they released was just Trey. I mean, at the time that they recorded it, it was just him. And since then, I think he's gotten more members that are technically part of the band again. But for a while, he was the only official member of the band.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. And it's sad. Whenever that happens, I never can help but wonder, like, is there something wrong with him? Is he just like a horrible person to get along with? You just never know. And I'm not, Trey, if you're listening by some weird, I've met you. I know you're a super nice guy, but it's just weird whenever a bunch of members continually leave a band and you just never know quite what to do with that. But,
right.
Hey, whatever.
Exactly. Let's see here. Last but certainly not least, before we dive into our heavy section, is Lee Nash from Sixpence None the Richer is going to be debuting a new solo country album.
Just for you.
Yes. Oh, I plan on not buying this as soon as it comes out. Lead vocalist of the pop rock band Sixpence None the Richer, Lee Nash, is looking to release a new solo album. She previously has put out other solo work, but this will be her first country album. You can keep track of the progress on her website.
Now, in her defense, she is from Texas, so there is that.
Yeah, it's not really helping much.
You're like, and that will make me not buy that even more.
That's right. That's right. I can't wait to not spend my money on that album. I cannot wait until that day. So, that's just how it goes. Well, let us take a quick break. Let's do Tom's review. I think that is a good place to send us for right now. So, hey guys, check this out. Oh, why won't you launch? Of course, we're moving slow. And
live.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
And a hard place. New music. Ravenhill. Soul.
I got a mansion built by the good Lord, and He's come to carry me home. I got a mansion built by the good Lord, you know that I do, and He's come to carry me home.
If you are like like me, then you've probably never heard of Illinois' Ravenhill. I was oblivious to their existence. Named after evangelist Leonard Ravenhill, Ravenhill are surprisingly not nearly as preachy as you would think, being named after an evangelist and all. Ravenhill are storytellers, and good ones at that. I want to let you know why you should pay attention to Ravenhill from here on out. Ravenhill owns a sound familiar to that of Need to Breathe, the Black Keys, Cold War Kids, and Bob Dylan. While uniquely their own, they pay homage to mentioned bands throughout their debut record, Soul, mixing blues, rock and roll, and ironically, soul all together to give you, the listener, a sound that you've heard before, but something that feels also fresh in the same breath. In 2011, they released their EP, Lion, where one song, namely Wicked Man, was carried over to 2015 and remade for Soul. The album itself was funded by crowdfunding and then handed over to label Slow Speak for some reworking and tweaking to give it the best sound possible. So actually, this is Soul 2.0 because the crowdfunded version was already finished and released to the public beforehand. Soul opens with the raucous and ambitious You'll Go Far Boy. The slow and steady intro of You'll Go Far Boy, Just Dig That Ditcho Baby, goes on for the first 48 seconds before kicking into high gear with a drivey beat layered with keys. The other key phrase of this song is rock and roll can save my soul, which leaves me with the feeling that some phrases are just repeated a little too much, as the latter is repeated a few times before the song's end. This is a minor complaint of an otherwise great song. I'd rather a phrase get beaten into the ground than one word going on forever. Vocalist Joshua Clifton has a great voice, with a solid vibrato that never gets overused or exaggerated. His vocals are a highlight to the album, where he demonstrates solid control of how well he can push his voice or cut it off. He articulates well, he just has enough wail in his voice to bring out the soul in the album, and musters enough aggression when needed to really drive home the rock and roll elements of the song. You'll also notice that songs are not layered with lots of special effects and ear candy. This album is a pretty stripped down, straightforward rock album that produces much of its flair simply with guitars and keys. It really brings to mind classic rock in the way it is performed as well, straying far from modern rock groups like Red and Nine Lashes, who rely or have relied heavily on effects and synthesizers to give their sound a full, lush result. Witches is a song I can see stirring up a bit of controversy. I don't think Ravenhill ever meant to be controversial, because this band doesn't come off that way at all. There is a mentioning of a witch burning and having drinks, so use your imagination or don't, but regardless, it's there. This song is a great story song. Ravenhill do a fantastic job lyrically with this song, and it seems to work in parts. What I took from this song, and I could be way off, but what I got was in the beginning was the protagonist was part of religious circles, casting out demons and doing all the religious stuff. In the middle of the song, he's questioning himself and longing for peace, and by the end turns to the Lord, who holds his head up high. That's what I got from it, and it's well written. There are a lot of modern rock elements found on Soul, but I definitely got some classic rock vibes from Devil's Son. I really heard the Doors in the intro, just how the Doors used a lot of keys during songs. The one I'm thinking of is Strange Days. Devil's Son has this haunting sound musically before the guitars kick in and carry the song through the verses and bridge. The Thrill has a beat something similar to the Ramones and gives off a punk rock vibe during the verses, and the rest of the song has this classic rock sound with keys something similar to Bruce Springsteen. The closer, Blood on the Church Floor, is a moody, soulful song with a chant-style Alleluia included in the mix. Ravenhill deliver great storytelling, energetic and somewhat entrancing music. Most of the album is very high energy with a few moments for slowdown, like the final track Blood on the Church Floor. I do see this album getting met with some controversy, which could be great for it in terms of making the album known and piquing curiosity. Again, I don't think this was ever intentional by the band at all, but some lyrics and song titles may generate a buzz. When I first saw the track list for Soul, I thought I was going to be listening to a metal album. An enjoyable album with nothing much to criticize. Solid production, but not so much that it takes away from the sort of rawness and stripped down feel that should come from this genre of rock. I can't really pick out any musical sins other than some lyrics driven repetitively a little too much. There's also a little bit too much organ keyboards for my liking, but I can't really say it's a bad thing, it's just my nitpick. I give Soul by Ravenhill 4 rocks out of 5. Now go dig that ditch, baby.
All right, so I feel the need to clarify one thing, and I was confused about this as well until I actually did the interview with Josh Clifton from Ravenhill. And if you missed out on that, go back and download it. It's in the songwriter sessions I did a couple of weeks ago. It's a really fun interview. I had a blast sitting and chatting with him, and we honestly, it took an hour. I could have gone 2 hours with him easily. I mean, it was just that kind of conversation. But it's rock and roll can't save my soul. So he actually quotes that line in the interview, and it's just a matter of not enunciating the T very well when he's singing it. But it's rock and roll, can't save my soul, gotta get my head out of the ground. So now you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
Real American hero.
If you are going to listen to the album Soul by Ravenhill, might I encourage you to go to tweakedaudio.com and pick up a new pair of headphones to listen to them on. Tweakedaudio.com, 7 different styles, 7 different colors, lots of options for you to be able to choose from, and low prices, which is awesome. You get a lifetime warranty on the headphones. Also awesome. And you get free shipping. Third awesome in a row. That's tweakedaudio.com. Not only that, if you use the code HARDPLACE, all one word, when you check out, you will actually put a little tiny bit of money into our pockets to help continue this podcast and help us just continue to do our best to make this little thing work. So check them out, tweakedaudio.com. Use the code HARDPLACE, and that'll tell them that we sent you. And then, hey, it's a win-win, absolute win-win situation. Paul.
Yes.
Do you have a song blender for us this week?
I do. I do have a song blender.
Be still my heart.
I know. But we got to do this right. Here we go.
All right.
The Rock and a Hard Place podcast presents
The Song Blender.
Oh, it is that time for the Song Blender, which only means one thing. Much frustration for Chris Cooner is ahead. Hi-ho to Mario.
So, guys, if you were not watching the live stream, you missed the total Striper-esque Song Blender logo that Paul whipped up this morning as we were doing our pre-show stuff. So that's just one more reason for you to come to Ustream and tune into the live stream so that you can see exactly what is going on. But it's this beautiful Striper-esque black and yellow. It's fantastic. You really should. You really should check it out.
That's right. That's
yes.
right. So
yes.
For those of you who are maybe somehow listening to this as your very first episode of the Rock and a Hard Place podcast, what the Song Blender is, we're going to take a small chunk of a song that I'm pretty sure that Chris knows. And this week, I'm being a little mean. I'm not going to lie. I'm being a little mean this week. But we're going to take a short clip. We're gonna spin it backwards, and we're also going to play with the pitch a little bit. And if Chris doesn't guess what it is after a couple of tries, then we'll take the pitch bend off of it to where it sounds normal, but just backwards. We'll see if he can get at that. And then if not, then we'll flip it around to the front way and make him feel really stupid for not knowing what it is.
Yes. Thank you so much.
So that's it in a nutshell. So here we go. So the Song Blender. Let's see how this goes. There you go. I'm a cruel, cruel person.
Wow. What in the world?
See, usually this is not the reaction that he gives us. Usually it's something along the lines of, there's something on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't quite place it. And this week, not so much.
Yeah, not so much. Okay, play it again.
All right, here we go.
Tom says you're feeding his nightmares with that.
Once you hear it forwards, it's just going to feed them even more.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Speaking of which, I'm going to slide over and actually grab the album that it's off of, but without showing it to you, because when it comes time for the reveal, I'm going to reveal it to the chat room as well as you and the audio, because it will be hilarious.
Okay.
But I'll grab it while we're playing it without the pitch bend, because I don't think you're getting any further.
Well, hang on a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a stab.
Okay.
Is the artist Toby Mac?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You want to try it?
Yeah. Let's play it again.
All right, here we go. Yeah.
My goodness. Are you sure I know this?
Yes. If you don't, I'm going to be very sad for your soul.
Man, I am.
Based on conversations that we've had, I don't know that we've ever specifically referenced this song. But if you missed this, I will be very shocked.
Okay, what's the next step? Forward?
Yeah.
So we're down to the end. It's like I am completely lost at this moment, and we're down to the end, and I'm okay. I
you
guess
try one more time backwards.
No, it's not going to help me.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna pull up my camera so I can see how high I can get this. Oh, okay. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, go.
It's my decision that your vision is blurred. So come on, a rap band.
Okay, that is Toby Mac.
It's time to jam.
No, I believe the album cover says DC Talk.
Okay. I think you're hitting semantics here.
I don't think so.
Oh my goodness.
It's time to jam.
You are a very evil person. I'm DC Talk, and I'd like to say I rock the mic in a kick-in way with a def track from Valet Beat. I know it's hard to keep from moving your feet, so have a fun day, don't be dismayed. Check out the lyric while the record is played. Not a borderline tune, but I got a case. I'm putting God's word right up in your face. I could go through.
I rest my case that you know this song.
I could go through the rest of it if you wanted me to.
And see, now I want you guys to like take note of this. He was questioning whether or not he actually knew this song, to which he went on to not even recite he went on to rap like the rest of the song.
Oh, that wasn't the rest of it by any stretch of the imagination. There's still quite a bit more, but
well, I know, but still, that's more than I could do.
I had an inkling, but my gut was telling me, no, that can't be right, and I blew it. I blew it. My goodness, Paul, you are a very bad man. I thought we were friends.
Well, and just a fun tidbit for those of you who listen to both this and the Christian Rock 20. Whenever the wife goes into labor and I am no longer able to fulfill my duties as radio show host for 1 week of the show, there will be what's called the baby episode, which will have all songs from bands that you may or may not have heard of, but from their first album. So it's a great walk down nightmare lane for some of these.
Yeah.
Because some of them you're just like, oh, wow, they used to sound like that. So you get to hear what POD sounded like on their first record, and you get to hear what DC Talk sounded like on their first record in a track that's not that one. That is one that I think actually holds up. But yeah. So it's fun stuff.
Okay, for some
I
reason,
think Tom's cussing at you.
Tom is swearing at me. All of a sudden, it says censored. Chris is rapping. I'm not sure.
This is a Christian show, man. Clean up your mouth.
Well,
I know you're from Canada.
He's
and
a
all, but
former
come on.
pastor too, for Pete's sake. The man's ordained. Maybe Canadian ordination is not as. Maybe it's not as stringent as ordaining in the U.S. I don't know. Tom, if you want to try that again, I turned links on. I know that's why it's being censored.
Don't be cursing this time around.
Yeah.
And don't spill your beer while you're typing.
It's so funny. Oh my goodness. Well, we've got a couple
things. Your milk in a bag.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a couple things left. Do you want to do the top 100 first, Paul, or do you want to do the For Today stuff first?
Let's go ahead and do the For Today stuff. I think that's a little bit more timely, and if we somehow run out of time, we can always come back to the top 100 thing.
This is a very good point. So if you'll remember a couple of weeks ago when I had Tom and Ian on, we talked about some stuff that had come out about For Today's lead vocalist, Maddie Montgomery. And it was concern from a previous member of the band that Maddie was involved in what some would classify as a cult. There's a gentleman by the name of F. Nolan Ball who feels like he is a... what's the word I'm looking for? He calls himself a prophet. He feels that he is not only a prophet of God, but he feels that he is the prophet of God. And he feels that people should do what he says because he teaches that God speaks to him and he tells these people what they should do. So we had a discussion about, the potential ramifications of something along those lines, what to do if you're involved in a situation like that, our own, personal thoughts about people who put themselves in that position and that kind of stuff. It's a great episode. If you haven't listened to it yet, the title of that episode is called Be Careful Little Ears What You Hear, which I don't know, Paul, if you have ever heard that little kid's song before.
Be careful little ears what you hear.
I thought that was a good appropriate title for that kind of an episode. So I hope that everybody else understood where that was coming from. But For Today is back in the news this week, and things just don't seem to be getting much better for them at this time. Their guitarist Sam feels like he got kicked out of the band.
Right.
And essentially that's kind of what it sounds like to us too, although the band says he wasn't kicked out, but they did ask him to leave the band, which I think means you got kicked out.
Yeah, if you say don't let the door hit you on the way out, that kind of means you're not supposed to come back, which is kind of saying you're fired. I mean,
right. So I'm a little confused. We're going to start off with Sam's statement. I'm going to read it to you. We'll gloss over some things. I'm not going to read the whole piece. It's quite long and very detailed, which I appreciate his attention to detail in that regard because I think he paints a really good picture of what he was going through. Now, I also want to preface it with this. As we say all the time, we're not judging either side. We're not saying someone was right and someone was wrong. You draw your own conclusions on that. I will say this, that when it comes to the truth, there's three sides to every story.
Yeah.
Okay? There's your side, there's my side, and there's the truth. Each of us color the truth with our own interpretations of what we saw, what we heard, what was going on at the time. So understand that's the picture that we're painting. We're not siding with anybody. We're just informing you of what was said, and you draw your conclusions however you want to. If it makes you not listen to For Today anymore, that's your call. I'm not telling you not to listen to them. I'm just saying this is what happened. Okay? I think, is that enough qualifiers?
I think so. I mean, because we're going to touch after we have his side, then we also have kind of what the band's saying, which is much, much shorter. But So I mean, and I don't know if it's anything like what we typically tend to do. There may be a little bit of commentary on this, but honestly, each side is right. So yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Exactly. All right. So here is Sam's side of the things. Side of things. How about that? He says, it's with a very heavy heart and coming from a place of some hurt and frustration that I announce to you all that I will no longer be part of For Today. As much as I wish that this could be an easily explained situation, it really is more than that. So as I write to you the multiple reasons why I'm no longer going to be a part of For Today, I simply ask that you read the entirety of this before making a judgment and before taking quotes or portions of this article to share your opinion. With that being said, I'll begin. March 22nd, 2015, I flew home due to a family emergency. Namely, my mother-in-law had incurred a brain hemorrhage from an accident she had that night. After arriving home, after sleeping at the hospital, driving hours a day to help my family in any way possible, I received a text message from the band asking if it was an okay time to call. I accepted and was told in essence that it was beneficial for me to no longer be a part of For Today. These are the reasons I was given. Reason number one, it was more important for me to be home with my family. This, I don't disagree with, and neither should any husband, but a decision that affects my wife and I in such a significant way should be left to my wife and I alone. 2, I was told that I was unequally yoked with the band because of my personal beliefs of how I should live my life after coming to know Jesus. For this reason, the band could no longer support me or walk with me on this path. To be clear about this, for those who care, my personal belief is simply that a standard of living our lives after salvation has been set by God in the Old Testament law, not for salvation, but for living a life in service to God. At first, I was completely fine with the conversation and didn't make a single argument or complaint. I'm attributing that reaction to being mentally and physically exhausted due to spending the night prior in airports with canceled flights. After 2 flights and more than 24 hours later, I finally made it home to take care of my family. After a day or two of counsel from several close, Christ-loving friends and family, I'd reached a new conclusion and attempted to reach out to the band and express the multiple reasons why they had not honored me the way the Bible says to as a brother in the faith. My reasons were as follows. Number 1, emotionally, it was dishonoring that the band felt the best time to announce this to me was in the midst of such stressful and exhausting events in my family, much less over the phone. Number 2, financially speaking, it was dishonoring. The band knew that we pay taxes at the end of the year rather than paying from each check, and that a couple of weeks after asking me to leave, I would be paying out majorly. For them to think it was best to ask me to leave the band without a full-time job lined up with a major payment ahead of me was inconsiderate. Biblically, it was dishonoring that they had found issues with me as a brother in the faith, but instead of pulling me aside personally or communally to talk through these issues, they simply came together without me and decided that would be most beneficial for me and my family. He goes on to say that he communicated with the band and thought that it would be honoring to allow him to finish out the summer festivals, to ease the transition, and honor the ministry as a husband, so that he could still continue to provide for the family. He sent this and asked them to pray together about it before answering. Assuming I get a response from them as a group, I instead received 3 differing responses and opinion. They are as follows. The beliefs that I hold on, how I should live my life after salvation are contradictory to the gospel. It was expressed by one member that I don't believe the same Jesus or gospel as members of the band. Number 2, it's not all about my beliefs, but rather my recent detachment and inability to focus during Bible study, along with the lack of quote-unquote fruit in my life. My dedication to bringing fans to the gospel is no different than anyone else's in the band, as I talk and pray with kids any chance I find, just as they do. Number 3, we aren't on the same page, and it's not about doctrine as much as it is that I'm too distracted with what's going on at home. From their perspective, I was only giving 50% to the band and 50% to my marriage, and they want to honor me by sending me home so that I am not halfway serving either ministry. As much as I agree that this is true, not only to me, but every member of the band who's gone from their wives and children upwards of 6 months out of the year, I will simply say that it is the responsibility of my wife and I to come to this conclusion, not the band's. Lastly, I was told this. Though the timing is not ideal, and it was a very hard decision, we believe it would be most honoring to God if you did not continue with For Today through the summer, as the band has never been about playing guitar to collect a paycheck. About a week after this, the band changed their opinion on summer festivals and offered them to me for a final tour. I declined after many hours of contemplation. He then goes on to say he wants to make it clear he's not writing this as an act of revenge or in contempt, and I do not hate any members of the band in any way. I simply just want to make sure that the truth is known about exactly why I will no longer be with For Today. After years of traveling the world with For Today and in the midst of lions have truly shaped my life and have taught me so much that I apply to my life daily. For now, I'll be at home with my amazing wife, enjoying my life at home. Maybe if an opportunity in the future presents itself, I'll go back on the road again, playing for all of you. Again, the biggest thank you to all of you, Samuel.
And that, I don't know. And I mean, it's one of those things where, I totally get what you were saying before. I mean, that's definitely his side of things. But it's so hard to see anything good out of that side of things.
Right.
So I don't know. But anyway, but then, of course, he has the band finally said something in reaction as well, which they put out a statement. You want to read through that?
Go right ahead.
Okay, he says, as many of you may have heard by now, we asked our guitarist Sam to leave the band following our last tour. We did not kick him out of the band for going home to take care of a family emergency. We would never do that. The bottom line is that Sam has too much going on in his life to be on the road playing shows. We've seen it put stress on him over the last several months, even to the point of missing flights and rehearsals before tour to be at home longer. He went home from multiple tours besides the last one, forcing us to have last-minute fill-ins for weeks of shows at a time. If you saw us play live in the last couple of months, there is a good chance that Sam wasn't even on stage with us. We told him months ago that if he wanted to continue playing in the band, that he would have to make some changes. He agreed, but we never saw any change. We were definitely not perfect and didn't expect perfection from anyone. But we knew asking Sam to stop touring and stay home with his wife was the right thing to do for both parties. I think it's unnecessary that internal band issues be made public. It's an unfortunate situation that has been made painful for everyone involved. We have taken steps to try to make this transition as smooth as possible for Sam and his wife. We all love Sam dearly and are going to miss having him on the road and on stage with us. And that's it.
So yeah, go ahead, Paul.
I don't know. I mean, it's like you read through that and it's basically like they don't touch on the doctrine thing at all.
No, they completely gloss over that whole aspect of things. And it's funny. They're like, we didn't kick him out of the band for going home to be with his family, but we did kick him out of the band while he was at home trying to be with his family. So I don't know. There's a few things in that statement that just kind of bug me. I mean, first of all, I think it is sad that all of this gets aired as, as Bruce in the chat says, dirty laundry. Tom says the sad part is that he did what too many do today and took to social media to vent about it. And Bruce says there's nothing like airing your dirty laundry in public. And both of those statements are true, and I agree with them 100%. However, when you are in a band as big as For Today and suddenly a member is no longer in the band, how do you go about communicating that you were asked to leave the band without airing the dirty laundry? Because you either say, well, For Today kicked me out, but I'm not going to talk about it. And then everybody's going to For Today going, what are you guys doing? Does this have to do with the whole Maddie Colt thing? It then goes back to that kind of thing, which brings on the negative ideas. There's not really any really great way to handle this whole kind of thing.
There really isn't. And I mean, honestly, and it's sad because it seems like the only way that would be the quote unquote good way to handle it would be to lie about it. The only way that you're going to keep from bringing drama is just to lie about it and say, hey, I quit the band. I need to stay home with family. But technically that's like half true because you do need to be home with your family, but you didn't want to leave the band and you didn't technically quit. But I mean, if he would have said that, no one would have said anything. It would be like, oh, well, sad to see you go. And that would have been it. But I mean, at the same time, that's dishonest. So it's like, what do you do? It's just, and if you just say, I'm no longer with the band, don't ask, it's not a big thing, then that's also not really being true because it is a big thing to you, and you're not happy about it. But it's hard, and of course it is difficult with social media because it's so easy to just be out there. I mean, you're a few clicks on your phone away from publishing your own manifesto on. But you especially have this situation where you're really mad, you're really upset. You basically just got fired from your career, which, I mean, For Today is not doing so bad, despite some controversy they've had here and there over the years. But, it's one of those things. There's just no good way to handle it. I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, just in dealing or trying to deal with a situation like this, For Today, they're already having some issues. I mean, it doesn't seem to have affected much of their album sales and concert and all of this kind of thing. It doesn't seem to have affected a lot of that, but at the same time, I know that in reading some of the quotes from Indie Vision, like when it came out about, Maddie's church, and now this stuff with Sam not being in the band anymore, there's quite a few people that are calling things into question as to whether or not what they see the band doing as being good stewards of their fame and good stewards of sharing the gospel. Is it becoming a distraction? Now, we know as believers, we know that the devil is real, and the devil will use whatever he can to try to divide people of faith. So is this just an ornate attack in that regard? And For Today is really doing a lot of good, and so there's this kind of attitude that is coming about because of that? Or, is it one of those things to where they really are stepping away from what we think they should be teaching, believing, doing, and headed off in a different path. And so it's good that this stuff is coming out so that people can be informed and make informed decisions. I don't know where this fits into on that whole thing. So you see where I'm coming from on that?
Yeah, it is hard, and there's no real telling what kind of effect this will have long term. And of course, I don't know if you guys touched on this very much when you were talking last week, because I haven't got a chance to hear it yet. But the guy who is kind of calling Maddie out for being part of a cult, he's also, if I'm not mistaken, the same guy who was asked to leave because of statements he made on social media. So he's kind of yet another jilted member. So
yeah, we did not make any note of that. I didn't know that that's why he was asked to leave the band. All I knew was this article popped up in my news feed that says former For Today member accuses Maddie of being in a cult. And what's interesting about that whole story to me is that Maddie hasn't come out and said anything about his church to try to defend what his church believes, to try to put to rest any of the rumors. There's nothing about that. It's just a matter of this guy said it. There's no defense or explanation about it. So how, you would think that if I were accused of being in a cult, I would come back and say, no, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
It just seems weird.
It is weird. And this is going to be taken in a much more, I guess, damning sense that I really mean it to sound. But the whole not acknowledging the question kind of feels a little cultish. I mean, I'm not saying I know nothing about Maddie. I've never met him. Everything I've heard about him is that he's a great dude. I mean, I have no beef with him whatsoever. But, it's like we watch, my wife and I end up watching a lot of like Nightline and 2020 and all this kind of stuff. And anytime you see stories about people like, who are part of like Warren Jeff's cult or one of these other cults where it's like really hardcore, it's like you call them out and ask them a question and they'll just sit there and look at you. Mm-hmm. It's like, if it's not one that they can't, or like, that they haven't had a pre, a cookie cutter answer that has been drilled into them, they'll just sit there and look at you like, you're not getting this out of me. Nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. So I don't know. And I mean, at the same time, I also kind of get it, because if you come out and you're like, no, it's not a cult. It's really, well, maybe it is a cult. There's not a really good answer for that either.
Right.
Because ultimately he could come back and say anything or nothing. And there's any number of ways you could take it, just depending on your own personal viewpoint and experience. So I really don't know. But it is weird. And of course, it always stinks whenever something like this comes out, at least for me, because I'm very much one of those people who is a very defensive personality. So even when I don't necessarily have a horse in the race, when someone gets called out on something, I have a knee-jerk reaction to want to defend them.
Right, totally.
I really do. So I just don't know. I mean, I hope it's not true. And I don't know what to think about this deal with Sam and the rest of the band. I mean, there's no good way to look at that either. I mean, maybe it is just that he was just not showing up. And don't get me wrong. If you're just randomly not being at all consistent about showing up for work, you're going to get fired. And that's the way it goes. And I get that, family problems, whatsoever. I get that. But there's only so long that a business or a band or whatever can operate when they can't count on you, because they need somebody that they can count on. And I'm also a firm believer in, even if you're a Christian business owner, there are times when you need to fire people. That's just the way it is. You can't think, well, I can't do that. They've got a family to support. Well, so does the next person who's not getting a job, because someone who has the job can't get it done.
I think that's a valid point, Paul. And one thing that has not been said by either side is, at any time was this brought up to Sam as a possibility because of how much time he was spending away, or did it all culminate and come to a head at this particular moment, and that's what happened? When you are working at a regular job, and again, it's really difficult to compare life in a band on the road to being a regular job, but a 9-to-5 job, you call in sick a bunch of times, you're going to get a warning. You're going to get told, hey, if you call in sick one more time, you're going to get fired.
Right.
There's a process. nothing is mentioned about that process in either of these two statements from either Sam
Well,
or the band.
Not directly as that being that specific, but it does say in their statement, it says, we told him months ago that if he wanted to continue playing in the band, that he would have to make some changes. They didn't say what the changes were, but before that, the statements leading up to it were all about him missing stuff. So the implication is that they were telling him, you know, you need to show up, which I get. And don't get me wrong. If I was in a band or any sort of traveling thing, and about half the flights we were looking to catch to go do something, they didn't show up, that would make me livid. I would be thoroughly mad. And I get that. So I don't know. I mean, it's so hard because, you know, when you're set to follow as Christ, it's so difficult to balance, you know, this whole idea of, well, it's not personal, it's just business. And making that line up with you're supposed to do things as Christ would do things. And unfortunately, you know, as much as Jesus did a whole lot of stuff, he never ran a Fortune 500 company, so you never knew how he handled firing people who didn't show up to work.
Right.
I mean, you kind of have to make that call on your own based on your own conscience and what you feel is right. And I hope that that's what the guys in For Today are doing, but it's so difficult because the two sides are so different, because one side is totally playing up. He's not there. It's like, how are we supposed to keep? He's not even there. You know, it's hard to justify that with, well, sure, I missed a couple of things, but ultimately they think that I don't believe what they believe, and that's really the real reason. And it makes it even more complicated, assuming that it's true that, you know, he got 3 different responses that were all different reasons as to why.
Right.
And that hurts. And then the part that I hate most is ultimately it's kind of hard for both statements to be true. So ultimately you have to think on some level that one of them's lying. And I hate that.
I
really hate that.
No, and you're dead on there. You know, if these two statements are completely opposite to each other, then there is some aspect of it that can't be true. And it's difficult when you have to when you have to be that, you know, when you have to look at it in that black and white kind of attitude. So it's hard, man. I love the ministry that For Today as a band has and the people that they reach out to. But the things that I'm seeing as of late concern me for them. And it makes me wonder how much longer they can continue to do what they do, or is there some kind of major shakeup that's going to happen to the band? I don't know. Again, speculation. You know, there's no inside info here. We're looking at the same things that you guys are online. I don't have an in with the band to be able to talk to Maddie and get any information in that regard. It's just this is my own extrapolation of where this can go. So just pray for
and the
him.
thing that also I hate about it is, and mind you, these are worlds apart, but based just solely on how big these guys are and the beginning rumblings of problems, I can't help but have as I lay dying flashbacks to this.
Right.
You know, and mind you, Maddie hasn't tried to kill his wife, and I'm thoroughly thankful for that. But at the same time, it's like you have this band that has gotten so big that it's, you know, it stinks, because it feels like anytime the things start going really right for some of these guys, something just feels like it's lurking around the corner to take them down, whether it's themselves or, you know, the devil or just outside influences of some sort. It just feels like something's just waiting to make that go south. And I hate that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's see. Bruce says that wearing rose-colored glasses has its difficulties. It does.
Yeah, you can't see the red lights.
No, that's exactly right. Why does everything look gray? I don't understand. Well, on that note, let's take a listen to what it is that Kirk has in his other stuff this week.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Pacific Gold is an indie psychedelic folk band from Seattle, Washington. Formerly known as Wayfarer, this band takes old and forgotten hymns and gives them new life with modern music and arrangements. Though ironically, most of the band's musical influences hail from the 60s and 70s.
We're
Having already released a couple of EPs, Pacific Gold's latest effort, Sing My Welcome Home, is their first full-length album. While rearranging the music and melody of the old hymns, none of which I recognize, the band also takes the opportunity to update the lyrics, replacing Thou Arts with You Are. Kind of a New King James version of old hymns. While many would lump Pacific Gold in with worship music based on the origin of their lyrics, the arrangements and music do not lend itself to the ever-popular corporate worship environment, though these songs do make great music for some personal time. Pacific Gold's full-length debut album, Sing My Welcome Home, is available now. This is Captain Kirk with The Other Stuff for the Rock in the Hard Place podcast.
All right. Thank you, Kirk. Pacific Gold. I was not familiar with them until right then and there, so good deal. Good deal. What do you think of Pacific Gold, Paul?
Bad Christian signing.
Say what?
They're a bad Christian band.
Oh, are they? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Did not
know that.
Oh, by the way, something that we have a picture for, but I totally forgot to actually put in the news story stuff. Emery is hitting the road on their 20th anniversary tour of The Question.
That's
which
right.
Should be a whole lot of fun. Although I do think it is a bit amusing that every band that's opening for them is way more aggressive than they are.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the. I have the poster up on the stream right now, and it's Emery with Sleeping Giant, Wolves at the Gate, and Forevermore. That is quite the interesting combination.
Yeah, that is going to be a brutal show, and then it'll slow down for Emery. Because Emery's not a soft band, but in comparison to the other bands,
yes,
they're like folk music.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. So be sure to check out that list if you are interested in seeing those particular bands. Let us do let's do your noise trade picks, Paul, and then we'll blast through the ChristianRock.net top 100, and we'll qualify it with some info about how they came upon this list.
Right,
Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan. All right. So first off, let's build up on this one. The first one is just a single. It's technically not on noisetrade.com, but you can get it off of Bryson Price's website. Now, if you want to find that, you can just you can search for him on SoundCloud, and you can stream it. And then if you like it, you can download it, and it's got the link there and everything. And actually, you can download it from his SoundCloud as well. But he's done a remix of Trip Lee's song called Lights On, and it's some good EDM, and I like it. So I hope you guys do too. Here we go.
You can take us higher, you the pilot. Lights, please.
See, this song hits on all cylinders for me because, to me, I love it when remixes just take a few chunks of the song and have a bunch of instrumental goodness around it, just because it feels like it works better than when sometimes you have them try to squeeze everything from a song and make it different.
Right.
Which it can work, but it's really hard. So I like it. I like Bryson Price. I like what he does. And it's got some, kind of dubsteppy goodness in there that I think is quite tasty. So it's a remix of Trip Lee's Lights On. You can find it on his SoundCloud page, and it's fun.
Cool.
So one of the other podcasts that I've been listening to lately is called Urban Achiever, and it is Bill Powers, who used to be like one of the main guys behind the scenes at Tooth and Nail. He ran their mail order, and he, I think, was like second in command for a long time. And he's left that. He was also the lead singer of the band Blenderhead. Well, as part of that, he has unearthed a 4-song demo that Blenderhead did before they were signed to Tooth and Nail. and he's put it up on their Bandcamp page. So if you search for Urban Achiever on Bandcamp, you will find it. And there's also some stuff that I think is actually newer from the band Everdown, which is another previous Tooth and Nail band, and then one other band that I'm not as familiar with. But anyway, here's a clip from that demo from Blenderhead, which I think is all sorts of old school Christian punk goodness. It's called Let Down, and I hope you guys like it too. Here we go. So there you go. Very lo-fi, not a ton of production there, but I kind of dig it.
Wow, I can't believe you actually played an entire song.
Pretty much. There is a song on there. I think it's the one called Dear John that's actually 15 seconds long. So we could play it twice and be totally legal with it because it would still be like 30 seconds or under. So
wow.
Anyway.
Nice.
So if you like that, it's Wonderhead. You can look for Urban Achiever on Bandcamp, and that's where you'll find that demo, which I'm sure up till now was very hard to find. As you can tell by the artwork, for those of you in the stream, it was originally released on cassette tape.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was noticing. I put it back up there, but you can totally see the the bend where it would be the backside of the cassette, the spine of the cassette, and all that. So good. Love it.
Yes, and plus I just love the fact that the cover is a kid walking along the sidewalk picking his nose. That's just great.
Exactly. It's awesome.
And then the last one, in honor of the choir's, I think, 25th anniversary of the Circle Slide album, they have, and this is kind of funny in a way because they didn't make that one free. They made one of their more recent albums called The Loudest Sound Ever Heard free, but you can grab it on noisetrade.com. And this is a song from that called Strange Girl. And this is definitely one of those bands that I truly believe you either like or you don't. So some of you guys will probably look at it and go, why is this even being touched on in the Rock in a Hard Place podcast? But back in the day when the choir was big, this was very much edgy and different. And it's still different, but not maybe considered as edgy as it once was. So here you go. Here's the choir.
Her spirit revolving like a wind was. She's such a strange girl in such good ways. A strange girl. She's so strange in such good ways.
So there's the choir, Strange Girl, off the Loudest Sound Ever Heard full-length album, which you can grab on noisetrade.com. And I guess I should go back and fix this because my wife is calling me out. Now, I want to say this first off. I'm pretty sure she knew this already, but she is sitting downstairs with my father-in-law, who is a lawyer. So that's probably part of the reason why I'm getting called out on this. But she says, no, you cannot play an entire song legally if it's under 15 seconds. So my apologies.
That would be a short clip in order to stay within the legal the legal lines of that. It's like, here's the first two chords, and that's all we can share with you because the song is only 15 seconds long.
Right. Which is funny because I don't think there's any chance in the world that Bill Powers could give two flips about that. Right. But still, it's kind of funny to think about. So anyway.
I agree 100%. Awesome. Well, thank you, Paul, for taking the time to pull out those Noise Trade picks. Always good stuff and always fun to see what it is that you managed to dig up out of there. Trying to make some sense of all the noise that's out there.
Yeah. There is plenty of it.
Yes, there absolutely is. All right, so let me get back here. We've got the top 100 from ChristianRock.net. It's the top 100 of 2014. Paul, they say that it is based off of requests and spins and other stuff. Maybe you could fill us in.
Is that what it actually says? Does it say other stuff?
No, it doesn't say other. It doesn't say other stuff. But it just says it says other things. Well, here, let me go back to see when I looked it up via Google. It says based on spins, requests, and more.
And more.
And more. That's what it says. Maybe you could fill us in on what some of the more might be.
I haven't the faintest idea. My only suggestions for that will make me sound like a jerk, or that I think that they're totally dishonest. So I don't know.
All right.
My thought would be, and what we like, but I don't know that.
Right.
And I honestly do not know the people who do ChristianRock.net. It's been around for a lot longer than my show has. It's been around longer than Broken FM has.
Yes.
It's been around for a very long time. And they do a great service. The only thing that ever makes me really wonder about their reporting of some stuff like this is some, not all, but a couple of the bands that are on their current weekly top 10 songs are not charting at all nationally. I mean, none. Like, not even on the radar. And that's not to say that they're bad bands. It's not to say that they're good bands, but it's not to say they're bad. But they're ones that aren't on anyone else's radar but theirs.
Right.
And I did have a discussion with a band who was like, oh, you should totally play our song. It made it like the top 5 of the year. And my reaction was not a good one. I was like, oh, really? And I just wanted to say, how did that happen?
Right.
Because that song is not very good.
Yeah.
It's not a good song at all. So
what a bummer.
I don't know. It's very much helped out by fans. And if there's one thing that I have learned through having polls on my website for as long as I have, the number of votes you get is usually in no way connected to the amount of fandom or your talent. Not to say that people who have gotten a fan favorite aren't good, but some of them I know got it because they campaigned the heck out of it.
Right.
I mean,
right.
You know, and the like 5,000 people who like their band, a very large percentage of them went and voted, whereas the several million fans of Skillet didn't find it worth bothering with. You know, and that's okay. I mean, a lot of people don't care about, or want to know about my show, and that's totally fine.
Right.
I was no different when I was in their shoes. There's some stuff that just isn't going to get on people's radar, and that's fine. But I just don't know what to think about the list in general on this. It's kind of weird.
It is a little bit strange. I will grant you that. I'm just going over it, and I'm like, is there someone you think is missing on this list? Like, did they forget someone on this list, or do you think it's more just they covered everyone? But
I'm going to be horribly honest. I don't have that list in front of me.
Oh,
can you send me the link to that specific list?
Just Google ChristianRock.net.
Okay.
Top 100 2014, and it'll be the first thing that pops up. And actually, I've got the list on the live stream right now, part of it anyhow. You can see the top, the bottom 86 through 100 at the moment. So I mean, we'll go through some of this, and you can scan through and see if there's anyone that you think they've kind of missed out on there, Paul. If we look at things like the number 100 is Just Say Jesus by Seventh Time Down, which is not what I would consider a rock song.
Right.
It's very much a K-Love style, and there's nothing wrong with it being a K-Love style song. It's just not a rock song.
Right. And I will also stipulate this, and this is not necessarily say this is bad, but it's very much contrary to what people think is traditional radio. Some of these are not singles.
Right. And we'll see that as we get into actually the top 10. Once we get up to the top 10, you'll notice that some of these are like, wait a minute, I don't remember that getting any radio play, including their number 1.
And I'm trying to remember if I think that one got sent out as a single, but it didn't. It never did chart at all.
I asked him, and he does not remember seeing it at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I think they sent me maybe a personal email, because I think I've had maybe them on the show a very long time ago. They're not a bad band. I mean, I'm not saying they don't deserve to be on the list, but to be number 1 feels a little weird. Of course, again, it's not to say that it doesn't feel weird that number 2 is Scott Stapp or Radical's number 3. I'm not saying
we haven't even gotten to the top of the list yet. What are you doing?
Oh, sorry.
You're talking about the top of the list. We're at the bottom of the list.
Okay, let's look at the bottom.
All right. So
right,
here's the bottom the bottom like 30. So 70 through 100 I have on the screen right now. We've got Devin Williams, The Protest, Sleep for Dreaming, Hearts of Saints, House of Heroes. Red Jumpsuit made it to 92. I feel like that song should have been higher on the list. I mean, it sat at number 1 for a while as far as the Christian rock charts are concerned. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not sure in some of the regards how this was all taken care of. Number 84, the band Scientist with their song Criminal. It's a fantastic song. Stellar Cart with Criminals and Kings. Wide is the Gate by Red Jumpsuit. Now, that one was kind of towards the end of the year, beginning of this year. So that one I could see being lower because it was later on. Wait for You by Seventh Time Down. We've got some Summerlin in there, another Devin Williams. No More Hell to Pay by Stryper, right here at number 72. Always very a good song in my opinion, but hey, what do I know? I'm a Stryper fan. Can't help that. Flyleaf, Set Me on Fire was also kind of towards the end of the year at number 69. So I would think that maybe had that been earlier in the year, or we may see it on 2015's list. That's always a possibility, We've got Scarlet White, Day's Eye, which I have no idea who they are. Versus Angels, Icon for Hire made this list, and they didn't even service any of this stuff to the Christian rock radio. So was happy to see Jonah 33 made the list. Blood is Thicker is a really good song. Southbound Fearing with Easy Way Out, our good friend Brady Leonard, who is a podcast listener. So kudos to them for making it. Switchfoot, of course, made the list. Remedy Drive, Relentless Flood, We As Human, Anberlin, Aowen. The Letter Black made it into the top 50 at 49. But Cutlass also made it into the top 50 at number 47. So, and then another Five Iron Frenzy song at 46, Into Your Veins, which is always good. Let me see here. Love Like Gravity, Awaken, Finding Iris, Viridia with We Are the Brave is another good song. Made it up to number 37.
I love the fact that the Digital Age is in this list.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, they're not rock either.
No, that's true. That's very, very true.
That's David Crowder's old backing band. It's not a bad record, but it's a praise and worship record.
Yeah. Michael Sweet on his solo album with I'm Not Your Suicide. Fight the Fade with Second Horizon. That was one I was pleased to see that they made it into the top 50, no less. So I thought that was fantastic. I love those guys. I think they're doing a great job. Red, Run and Escape, number 28. Berserk by Family Force 5, number 27. Anberlin, number 26. That's always good. Another Summerlin song. Fight the Fade made it in a second time. They missed the top 20 by one number.
Aww.
They were number 21 with their song Rise, which is a great song. So now we come to the top 20.
Yeah.
Come Home by Relentless Flood.
Not a bad song.
No, not a bad song at all. Memory by Decipher Down.
Also good song. Also not that big.
Tim and I are taking full credit for this one. Number 18, Guardian with Paranoia Kills.
Great song, but didn't go anywhere.
No, not as well as it should have, in my opinion. I thought it should have charted a
absolutely.
lot higher, personally. We've got Nine Lashes with Never Back Down. It's a good song. Happy to see that. We've got We Are the Broken by Seventh Day Slumber. Another good song.
Mm-hmm.
Now here we come to Only One by Scott Stapp, which was never released as a single that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that being a single either.
So number 15... interesting choice.
Yeah.
When We Come Alive by Switchfoot, good song. Fading West. Right. If you haven't seen that documentary, by the way, go watch it. It's really good. What did your wife think of that as a documentary? She's seeing as how
I haven't been able to convince her to watch it.
Really? What?
You have to understand that if I try to tell her that a documentary is good, that's not exactly the... I don't think she believes me. So I don't know. So Sarah, if you're watching, I apologize. You have excellent taste. And I think that she's really just more worried that either it's just about surfing and that doesn't interest her, or that it's just a band documentary and those never interest her either.
To me, it was so much more than just a band documentary. It was a snippet in the days in the life of Switchfoot. There is some surfing that goes on, but there's also a couple guys who don't surf and they go out into the community and find sounds to record and make music using other things than what we would consider normal instruments and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's the snippet where John Foreman has to fly home because one of his kids is really sick, and so it's his duty to fly home and deal with the family stuff and things like that. It's much more to me than just a day in the life of the band.
Absolutely.
So go, I would encourage anyone to go check it out and just enjoy it for what it is. Yes, there's a lot of music in it.
And forget what you've seen in other band documentaries.
Right.
Unless it was like one made about somebody like just huge.
Yeah.
Ignore it, because I've seen a bunch of ones that were like extras on DVDs like we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is a documentary. No, it's a bunch of handheld footage from one of your roadies.
Right.
All spliced together in no particular order. It's interesting if you're an Uber fan, but beyond that, it doesn't mean much.
Not so much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Number 13, Waiting for You by Sean Guerrero. Not familiar with.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Scott Stapp, number 12, was Slow Suicide. Now, this one makes sense to me because it charted well.
Yeah, it did.
So, and that was before the big, massive breakdown. Take the Bullets Away by We As Human. Good song featuring Lacey, formerly of Flyleaf.
Yep.
Number 10, Rise by Skillet. That one, to me, is a no-brainer. Born This Way by Thousand Foot Crutch. Number 9, also a no-brainer. Yeah. Stay With Me by Chronicles. Not familiar with the band Chronicles, really.
They're good, but they've never gotten play. I mean, I don't know that. I think they have had one of their songs chart, like barely eke into the top 30 for a week or two.
Okay.
And I love the guys in the band. We've had them on the show a few times, and they went from being kind of a grunge modern rock band to kind of a dub rock band. I mean, they're mixing dubstep with rock.
Okay.
In a way that I find very interesting and entertaining. But yeah, the song did nothing chart-wise. But in a way, just for my selfish reasons, I find it kind of cool and it made it. But but at the same time, it probably shouldn't be there if you're going by other sources than just requests. But,
Gotcha. All right, number 7, The Bird Songs with This Isn't Love, which is another really good song that I enjoy very much. Skillet with Not Gonna Die. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Demon Hunter with The Last One Alive at number 5. Again, no surprise there. Ilya, As Winter Stays. Radical by Disciple at number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Proof of Life by Scott Stapp as number 2.
Right.
And the number 1 song, according to this list of top 100 of 2014, is a band I've never heard of called Light Up the Darkness with a song called Broken Mirrors.
Mm-hmm. They're a good band. They are a good band, but I don't know, and I don't even remember if I've had them on the show. I want to say I may have, but we have the kind of relationship where they'll email me when there's a new single. I have their album. It's not bad. It's not bad. It kind of fits into the genre of like Fireflight or The Letter Black. A female fronted, pretty hard rock band. But it's. Number 1, I don't know. I mean, I don't even remember the song well enough to say whether it's a good song to be requested, but I'm sure it's a good song. But of the year, it feels a little weird. It just does.
Yeah.
And if they are listening, I apologize. It's nothing against you guys. You guys put out some great music, but you haven't gotten that popular break yet to where it feels justified for you guys to be up there.
Right.
Mind you, I'm sure you guys got a ton of requests, and that is to be commended. So if you can mobilize a fan base, that is half the battle won. So
yeah,
there you go.
Very much so. Very much so. All right. So your wife says that she doesn't like band documentaries. It's more like behind-the-scenes footage, long, boring, and not done well, and bordering on family videos. My guess is I'm not going to convince her to watch Fading West.
Probably not, but I would love to bring up that this is nothing like that. They put in some money on this thing.
No,
it's
to me it's very well
really
done,
good.
and it's not shot on like a handheld camcorder. This is professional cameras and full 1080p, and some of the cinematography to me, shots of the country that they are in, the panning shots and this kind of stuff some of the scenery is really beautiful just to stop and take a look at. I mean, there's some ocean shots with waves crashing and that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I felt it was really well done. Then again, I'm not a documentary filmmaker, so coming at it from that standpoint, I can understand where there's a little more of a critical eye to what it is. As a DJ listening to music, we have a much more critical ear towards what we think music-wise sounds good and what doesn't than an average listener. So, I totally get the idea of, hey, this is what I do. This is part of my passion. So I look at things with a more critical eye in that regard. So, I mean, I totally understand that. I wouldn't want to listen to crappy music just like Sarah doesn't want to watch potentially crappy documentaries. I get it. It's fine.
And also, we have a bit of a handicap because we're both Switchfoot fans. So there is that.
That is true. That is very, very true. So I won't discount that at all.
Okay, so back to the list. My biggest issue with this whole thing, despite the fact that there are bands in the top 20 that had singles that went nowhere, my biggest issue is that all the way down at number 26 is the song that was hands down the biggest song of the year, no question at all. They released one single off of their final album, one, and it dominated for so many weeks that it was laughable, and it didn't do it with votes. I mean, it got so much play. Now, I get that they're not going off of requests, but that should have been without a doubt in the top 10. Even if it got no requests, that should have done so much better. And it's a great song.
Yeah.
It's a very good song.
For those of you
that's what kills me the most.
Yeah. For those of you that haven't picked up on who it is that Paul is talking about, it's Anberlin with their song Hearing Voices. So just making sure that everybody understands who it is that you're talking about there.
Yeah, because when I compiled, I mean, not to toot my own horn or get too inside baseball on this, but on my top 100, not top 100 because that's ridiculous, my top 20 of the year, like when it got down to number 1, it was like no one was anywhere close. And the stuff that was close, you're like, oh yeah, that did okay. And then, then you had that one, and it was just huge. It was ridiculously huge.
Absolutely massive.
So I don't know, and that's okay. I mean, I first off want to say that there is a place for a chart like this, because a lot of what ends up being radio charts is guys like you and me who are like, this song does well. It's our interpretation of what is still not being worn out or burned out on air. What we feel like people are enjoying and requesting from our perspective.
Right.
And it's also, this is a good song, and it's stuff that we like. I mean, a lot of it is very prone to interpretation from our end. And I would be lying to say it wasn't. Now, mind you, I don't get to pick anything because I don't vote in my poll. I don't, none of the spins that I do make any difference because they're just reflecting what has already been happened. So, what my show does to spins is nothing. I mean, there's no way that it makes any difference.
Right.
And I get how having an all request countdown is great, because it is fun if for no other reasons than, people get to hear bands like Chronicles or Light Up the Darkness, and that's fine. It just still, from the industry point that I come from, it still feels weird, even though I appreciate that it exists.
Right. No, totally. And that's why I say we both are going to have a very different idea of what should be in a top 100 list like this than the average listener.
Right.
And so that's, we don't have all the details on what went into this list, but I don't know. There's quite a few things on here that it's like, yeah, I think they should have been higher, or I think that should have been lower, or that one shouldn't have even been on the list.
Well, and I will say this also, to the idea of not being even on the list. I don't know if I did a top 100 if there would have even been 100 different songs that made the top 20 at all.
Right.
If I laid it out like that, I don't know. I if you would have not shown me this list and said, were there 100 singles released to Christian rock in the last year, I honestly would kind of wonder, because for me, usually there's between 1 and 3 singles a week that are released. but usually it's on the lower end of that. And every once in a while, something crazy happens where it's like 5.
Right.
But usually I'm kind of scrambling to find new stuff to play on the show because there isn't that much being released in an official channel. And so the idea of even having a top 100 itself feels kind of stupid. Because I'm like, really? It's like it made the top 100. It's like if it made the top 100 for me just on what was played on my show, there could be number 100 got played once.
Right.
And that would mean nothing.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you on
anyway,
that.
That soapbox standing down.
It's all good, man. It's all good. I understand.
I feel better now.
Oh, my. Well, I think that is about going to do it for us for this week. We want to say thank you to everyone who has taken the time to listen to this show as we drone on and on about the intricacies of Christian rock and bands that are having struggles right now and all of that fun stuff. If you want to know more about us, you can check us out at facebook.com/rockinahardplacepodcast. If you want to email us, you can email us at gmail.com. rockinahardplacepodcast at gmail.com. That's where you go. rockinahardplacepodcast at gmail.com. I am trying to think. I don't think there's anything else that we need to say. Oh, to check out our sponsor, Tweets Audio, at tweetsaudio.com. Yeah. Use the code HARDPLACE. Get 33% off of your order. Free shipping, lifetime warranty, all of that fun stuff.
And check out our Patreon page.
Yes, that is true. Patreon.com/RNAHP. Become a Patreon sponsor and help this podcast grow mightily in the power.
Sorry, I so wanted to do a He-Man thing, then I'm like, no, that's not appropriate.
Oh, man. Sword of Homans, give me sight beyond sight. That's Thundercats, by the way, in case anybody was curious.
Thundercats!
Yeah,
ah!
Exactly. Well, I guess that not much left to say except that I am Chris Cooner.
And I am your boy, Paul Gibson.
And we're going to do our best to try and see you next week. Have a good one.
Bye.